Hiya, so this year I've bought 3 books, and it sounds crazy because I absolutely love books and I love reading, but I've only bought 3. I've spent less than €20 between all of the books that I've bought throughout the entire year, and I wasn't on a book buying ban. Lots of people seem to discuss book buying bans on YouTube and Twitter, and while I haven't bought many books and I've just restrained myself, I wasn't on one. So I want to talk about why the idea of book buying bans bring up the idea of privilege in my head, and why I'll never talk about having one, or why I'll just never have one. So you've probably seen yourself on Twitter or YouTube or maybe another social media platform, you'll see people talking about why they're not going to buy books anymore, or just for like a short period they're imposing a ban on themselves because they've spent too much money on books, so they want to catch up on what they've got and they don't want to add more to the list, or else maybe they're trying to save money. So they're thinking, okay, if I cut back on the number of books I buy, then I'll be able to save. And obviously lots of people, I've seen it time and time again, where they're like, oh yeah, I've broken my ban for this book or this book, but they're still on this ban where they're not supposed to buy anything. It's a bit of a privileged statement to be able to go out and say, oh yeah, I'm buying books so regularly, in itself, that you have to say, I'm banning myself from buying books because I have too many of them. Books are still expensive, and I think that there is kind of a class divide when it comes to buying books, because obviously some people are going to have to prioritise other things. Personally, when I hear people going, oh, I'm going on book buying bans, I'm like, why don't you spend your money how you want to? Like, we can take myself as an example. Like, people think that I will be fairly okay for money, but if we look at my income last month, it was €410. Then I give about 200 to my mammy as rent. I would give €110. I would give €110 to my pharmacy. No, I paid them €110 for medication. That's already 310 out of the 410 that I have gone. So you can see pretty quickly that I would have no disposable income when it comes to buying books. So to me, books still have that kind of privilege sense about them. So when you buy them, it's like, oh wow, I've bought a book. Because they're not very accessible to everybody. Obviously you can go to the library and stuff, but that's borrowing a book, which is completely different to owning a book. It's like when you get a new DVD or a game or something, it's like, wow, I've spent like this much money on getting something so that I can personally own it, and this will be mine. I still feel like that about books because, I wouldn't have really prioritised them ever when I was growing up. Maybe last year I did a bit because I was so into books so much and I had some disposable income, but it's never really going to be a priority for me. So obviously when I say that I buy, like, I've spent €110 on medication last month, that is privilege in itself, because I was able to afford antidepressants, I was able to get that, and I had to go to the GP, and that was nearly €60, so that brings us like over my income between medication, GP, rent, and then Harvey's Pay and stuff. Like, that's more than I actually got in the month that I spent on just those things. And that has a bit of privilege in itself, that I was able to afford healthcare and stuff, which is awful. But I don't know. I feel like people forget sometimes that not everybody can afford to buy books regularly when they're talking about their book buying bans. So I don't really understand the need to necessarily put yourself on a ban. Like, obviously I wasn't on a ban, I just couldn't afford books. If you're that stuck for money, or you're trying to save so much that you are putting a ban on yourself from buying books, then I don't understand why you would struggle with it, because it's necessary. You don't have a choice in whether you actually buy these books or not. You have to not buy books, or else you're not going to survive. So to me, to say that you're on a book buying ban for financial reasons, it's not really a ban if it's really actually necessary. You just can't afford to buy books. It's not a ban. Do you get me? Do you get the difference? I hope you get the difference. To me, if it's absolutely 100% essential that you have this ban, then you will stick to it. And I don't really get why people discuss having bans, because, unless it's for financial reasons, then it just screams privilege to me. Like, oh no, I have so many books that I have to read them all and stop buying books. Oh no, my life. And I kind of did go through that earlier on this year, because I also had Kindle Unlimited, and I was like, Jessica, you've too many books there to be bothering with a Kindle subscription. So I cancelled that. which was really fortunate because then a couple of months later I was like, I'm so grateful that I cancelled that because I couldn't afford it anymore, and I just didn't want to admit that. But you know, to me, a book buying ban is something privileged. I hope I got that point across without making people feel bad, because I don't want people to feel bad about their financial circumstances and being able to afford these things. There's no reason that you should feel bad for doing well in life. I just think that you should be aware that you sound a bit silly when you're like, oh, I need to put a ban on myself from buying books. And it's like, why do you need to say that you're banning yourself? Why can't you just say, oh, I'm not going to be buying books anymore? And something that I think is only within the BookTube community. I've never heard of gamers going, oh, I'm going on the gaming ban, or musicians or people who listen to music going, oh, I'm going on a music buying ban. It's just something within the BookTube community, because people tend to have like collections and stuff, and you won't really have that with music or anything nowadays with like downloads and stuff. Obviously ebooks are also bought within the BookTube community, but yeah, I'm guessing you get what I'm at. I know people who are on book buying bans at the moment, so sorry if you feel like I'm calling you out, but I just want to get like a discussion going about BookTube and book buying bans. So if you have any thoughts or comments, let me know in the description box below, and we can have a little conversation about whether book buying bans are signs of privilege or whether they're not, because I personally believe that they are. Some people might disagree, or they might just feel uncomfortable that I'm saying that, because you know the way that say when some men are being discussed with about like feminism and stuff, and they're like, not all men, and they get uncomfortable, and you're like, well, I didn't say you specifically, you know, I didn't mean all men, but you know, some people get uncomfortable when they're called a bit privileged. So I don't know, personally I'm very privileged. I am a white female. Well, being female isn't really a privilege, but it's privilege over like being trans or something, trans female, trans male. So I'm pretty privileged as far as privilege goes towards people who are in different countries or maybe different genders. And I'm also straight, so there you go, I'm probably straight anyway. So, you know, I am pretty privileged. I don't mind people calling me out when I do something that's privileged. So let me know anyway in the comments below if you think that's privileged, if you think that's not, if you think I'm being silly or reading too much into it, or if you agree with book buying bans and you think that there's actually logic behind them, or that there's good reasons for why people would discuss having bans. Let me know and we can have a little chat. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for getting me to 200 subscribers, even though that was ages ago. That was really cool and I liked seeing that. Next up, 250. Yeah, that's a milestone, isn't it? I don't know. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Slán.